Yo, what's going on? It's your Counsel Poly Rob. Welcome to another episode of my Poly Rob podcast in short form. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notifications in the top left-hand or right-hand corner. And make sure you tune into all the content that I got going. I appreciate y'all always rocking with me. I appreciate all the donations and the Cash Apps. You know what I'm saying? My Cash App is right there at the bottom. I appreciate all of that. Now, let's get to it. Jermaine Dupri. Apparently, he pissed off a lot of independent folks. You know what I'm saying? Not me, but apparently he pissed off a lot of independent cats, right? And he made a comment about his question was to the people, and he clarifies it as, this is a question. This is not a statement of me saying this, but this is a question. What are the goals of being independent? What are the goals of being independent? And when I first read the tweet, you know, my first reaction was, that's a good question to ask for all these independent people out here, or people who feel like they're independent, or they're actually independent, but they don't necessarily know which way to go. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I feel like it was a very fair question. Now, coming from Jermaine Dupri, do you feel like it's a question that he should ask? A lot of people feel like no. A lot of people feel like he's too privileged. He's too privileged in his career to ask about independence in music in general. They feel like because he's worked with a lot of record labels and he hasn't been independent in that regard, whether it's true or not, people feel like he shouldn't be asking the question, or he should be knowledgeable enough to answer that question. Now, in my opinion, I feel like it doesn't matter if you've been, and I'm not going to say privilege. I think that's the wrong word. Like, when people say privilege, like, you're implying that he didn't put the work in, like somebody gave him the fucking accolades and the success. That's not how I feel. He's not privileged. He worked for that. He worked for his success. He worked for those records. He worked for it. But what I will say is, he may not be knowledgeable on what the current independent landscape is. I think that's the reason why he asked the question. I think because he's not familiar with the independent landscape of how people do things now. You know what I mean? In his era, independent was like next to nothing. And even the idea of independent was like you know, like a Raucous Records, or like E40's label, you know, stuff like that, which in a sense they were independent, but they were operating with the intention of doing the same things that the major labels do. And when Jermaine Dupri made that tweet, in my opinion, I think his real question was, okay, if the major labels' goals and benefits, like to get on a major label, if the goals and benefits is to have a major machine, have major marketing, have a budget to be able to operate in, you know, your workspace creatively, to be on the biggest stage, if those are the goals that you have for yourself as an artist, and major labels provide that, then what are the goals for being independent? Like, if you decided to go independent, what are your actual goals? Do you feel like going independent, you want to be on the biggest stage? Do you feel like that's possible? Do you want to control your creative narrative? Do you want to own your masters? Whatever that is. Now, this is the catch. This is where it gets confusing for people. All of those things can be done by majors and independents. But when he asked the question, now read it back, read the tweet back. When he asked the question, he specifically said, what are the things that are goals or benefits in independency that is not the same as a major? What are the things that you're gaining as being independent that you cannot gain as a major, as being on a major? Listen to what I'm saying. What are things that being independent only provides that the major approach does not provide? That's a real question. Let me explain why. A lot of people say that they're independent because they've been turned down by majors, or they're not even looked at by majors. Some of them don't even have the option of choosing between because they're willing to take whatever opportunity somebody give them. Also, there's some people who can't even operate in an independent space. You're not even built like that. And let me be clear, I'm not shitting on nobody, but what I'm saying is the independent game is very, very tactical. Because you don't have the major marketing budgets, because you have a smaller budget than the majors, you have to be very tactical at how you approach your creative process, your marketing, your promotion, your spending, all in its encompass. You have to be careful. Majors might give you a $250,000 recording budget for features, recording, studio time, whatever the case may be, engineers, whatever. Your own independent, you're spending your money out of pocket, so you might only have $10,000, $15,000. So now you got to be very, very strategic at how you spend that money for your recording budget. Or you might not even have that. Sometimes artists don't even have it. Independent labels don't even have that budget at the moment. They have to generate that through other elements of income or out of your own pocket, whatever the case may be. So you have to be very, very tactical at how you spend money. Now, in my interpretation, this is only my interpretation, what Jermaine Dupri is saying is that if you're going through those type of problems as an independent and you want more, what are the things that being independent gives you that majors can't give you that would make you choose to stay independent even though these problems might arise? Like, for instance, he mentioned that in certain cases, people who are on majors can get their masters. To refute that, I think that statement is from a privileged position because more often than not, the labels are taking the masters from the artists, especially if they gave you a budget to record, to give you some money up front, whatever the case may be. When they're setting up your sessions, they're setting up your sessions with the studios that they rock with. So you in Heavenly Bliss, you in the great recording studio, you doing your thing, but it's under their dime that you have to pay back. You get what I'm saying? It's under their dime. They gave you the advance. They need to recoup. So all of that studio time you're spending, the engineer, the features and all that got to get paid back. So 9 times out of 10, they're not giving you your entire masters when you negotiate a deal like that. Now, Jermaine Dupri may have negotiated and had certain deals to where they're giving him the masters because they understand that he makes money from his records, so they're willing to give him a deal of that magnitude because he's Jermaine Dupri, because he's successful, because of that. I agree with him being, because you're successful, you're open to those opportunities. Artists that are coming out the gate or even have a small track record, labels 9 times out of 10 won't give them that type of opportunity. But there's a but. But if you're someone who's developed themselves enough to have some fire burning and some records being popular and some cachet going with the fans, when you walk into a major, you can negotiate that. If you got a hot record and you on fire, you can negotiate that. That's why they're calling you to come sign to the label, because they want what you have. But you got to set the fire. You have to create the fire. So in my interpretation, I'm thinking he's referencing, if you have some traction going, what's stopping you from negotiating to keep your masters on a major? If you as hot as you say you are, if you as dope as you say you are, what's stopping you from going in that negotiating table and negotiating for you to keep your masters, especially now, especially today's modern industry? That's what I feel like he was getting at. I don't think he articulated that enough. But all in all, still the question is, what are the things that going independent can bring you that the majors can't? And the reason why I say, first off, thank you, Jermaine Dupri, for even bringing up this conversation, whether people like your answer or not. Thank you for even mentioning this, because I will say, Local Astronauts being an independent production company, I know what it takes to take a record from its idea to completing the record, to creating the campaign, to creating the promotional layout, to getting all the assets together, to releasing a record properly, to spending marketing dollars on the record properly, to having the right ideas to spend the money on properly, and to have the record be successful, whether on an independent level or a major label level. I know what it feels like to walk down that music and that artist all the way. I know what that feels like. I've done it before. So trust me when I tell you, this shit ain't easy. This is not easy work. So if you have an opportunity, especially if you hot shit, if you got an opportunity for a major label, or let's say a popular company, let's say Red Bull wants to put money into you to do it on a major scale, to use their marketing team, to use their promotional dollars, to have your music as ownership, because Red Bull is not into music like that. They have a music department, but they're not operating like a major label. But they have the money necessary to give you to do what you need to do. What's stopping you from doing that? What's stopping you from doing that? What's stopping you from doing a deal with Empire distribution or Empire Records? What's stopping you from doing that? What is going on so greatly in your independent world that'll stop you from that? Now let's answer the question. Because this is what I came here for. I came here to answer that question. Jermaine Dupri, that was a good question. Now let me answer it. And I want to speak in the context of, let me set the ground rules of how I'm going to address this answer. Because this answer is not for everybody. And what I mean by that is, this answer doesn't apply to every artist or every label going independent. I'm going to say it again. This answer does not apply to every label and every artist trying to go independent. I got to say that because I'm not here to generalize the whole independent culture, even though I'm a part of it. I'm not here to generalize it. And I say that because it takes a different level of person, group of people. It takes a different level of idealism. It takes a different level of grind, compassion, drive, energy. It takes a different level of being to decide to go independent and pull it off. It takes a different level of going independent. You got to be in it. You got to go for it. There's a lot of people that's saying, this won't work, I don't approve of that, I don't like that. And you got to disregard all of it and go for it. That's what I mean by it's not for every independent person. Just like when you in your entrepreneur bag and you building your company from the ground up and you trying to do your thing, it's not easy. It's not the same as walking in and getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You're secure every 2 weeks, no matter if you complain, no matter if you're mad, you happy, you don't want to talk to nobody, you want to talk to everybody. It don't matter. 2 weeks you get paid. It don't work like that when you're independent. The money out your pocket goes to the career. The work you got to put in because you might not have enough money to pay somebody or put somebody on a payroll. You got to do that job. You got to do it. You got to pay the engineer out of pocket. You got to pay the producers. You got to pay the DJs that's helping you in the streets and in the clubs. You got to pitch it to radio. That takes effort. That takes time. You got to be on a different level and a different scale to fuck with this. Because I done seen a lot of people try to go independent, then they complain that nothing get done. You know why? It's because y'all not tapped in how we tapped in. I'm just saying it takes a different level of person and group of people to be independent. But let me answer Jermaine Dupri's question. The question is, what does the major label approach offer, and what goals are you setting as an independent approach? What goals are you setting that you can't set with the majors that differentiates the two? Because people assume that independents are just artists that can't get on major labels. So they just conform to doing it themselves. But let me answer that question. One thing that being independent offers that the majors do not offer is the timing approach of your creative. The time frame approach of your creative for some people is important, is vastly important to how they roll out their music, how they roll out their creative, the time frame. If you've been on a major, I've had the privilege to have a group that I've produced and done the music management for that was signed to Capitol Records. Y'all already know what it is. If y'all know my catalog, y'all know what it is. In that regard, when you're signed to a label, there's a timeline that they set for you to release your music, to do your campaign, to roll out the album, to roll out the video. There's a time frame. Now, their time frame is predicated on how can we maximize the awareness, the outreach, everything, which is a good thing. The bad part about it is when you're a group or you're an artist that's on fire, sometimes the timeline gets pushed up in terms of what the fans are expecting you to do and what you actually do. The timeline, sometimes you got to strike while the fire is hot, especially knowing that you're signed to a label that you have to necessarily, you got to recoup your money. And in some times, when you're rolling out this rollout for this album or this single, it might be the wrong record you're rolling out at the moment. It might be the wrong time to roll out this particular video. It might be another video you want to roll out. But sometimes the timing get off. And I'm not going to say whose fault it is. It's just what somebody at a label that's trying to get their money back is looking at as far as time-wise. The artist is not looking at it in the same way. They believe that if you drop the video of the 3 videos, let's say you got 3 videos. If you drop it a month after each other, the artist may believe that that's going to work and drum up more hoopla or awareness or whatever. The labels might be like, no, let's stretch these 3 songs and 3 videos out 6 months. They may believe that that's a narrative to be able to capitalize. Now, years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the labels may have been right. But let me give you an example of how that's changed these days. Kendrick Lamar dropped 5 diss records and one that became an official single. And he turned around in 2 months and dropped the album. You see what I'm saying? Most of the diss records made it on DSPs and everything. But he dropped 5 songs, actually 6 songs, because if you add Watch the Party Die, it wasn't a diss record, but it was just a song he threw out. He dropped 6 songs and then turned around and dropped a full album in 2 months later. So you can see how, even though he's on a major, he's developed the cachet to be able to do that because he's on his own timeline. Every artist on that label not on the same timeline. Every artist on that label can't just do what they want to do. But as an independent, you can set your timelines. You can set the timeline of when you want to do things, especially when you have a smaller budget. Sometimes the timeline gets pushed up for music and videos and content because you want to keep striking in this quarter, like these 3 months or 4 months. You want to keep striking. That works for independence. Hence, Griselda, Rock Marcy, Flea Lord. Flea Lord dropped, was it 2023 or 2022? Flea Lord dropped an album every month the entire year, 12 albums. You can't do that with a major label. He dropped 12 albums, one album every month. I was blessed to be able to produce an album. I mean, I think a record or two in that wave. Thank you, Fleet. I appreciate that. He dropped the album every month for the whole year. All them projects, that's his. All that money he getting, that's his. All that merch money, that's his. He get all of that. No way you're going to be able to do that on a label. No way. The strategy is different, so the timelines are different. You're able to set your timelines, and it'll work in your favor if you do it right. You can't do that at a major. Can't. Also, another thing that you can do with independence that you can't do at majors. And listen to me when I say this. Listen to me when I say this. You can approach your music however you want. You can approach your music, whatever style you on, whatever way you want to do it, you get to do that. You know what you're not confined to? You're not confined to giving money back. You're not confined to chasing the bag because you got to pay a company back. You can do, it's your own money. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Some people can't operate in that space because they're not equipped enough to come up with clever things to make shit happen. They're not clever enough to do that. So this is not for everybody. If you ain't got the creative smarts and the team and the capacity to pull this type of stuff off, don't listen to nothing I'm saying because I'm not talking to you. You're not ready for this. Go do something else. I'm talking about the ones who are creatively intelligent, who are business savvy, or have a team to help them be business savvy. Case in point, Nipsey Hussle dropped an album called Crenshaw and charged all the fans and the customers and the people who supported his music $100 an album. $100 album. It still hasn't been done yet by nobody else. Genius. That's what you can't do at the labels. You can't do that at the majors. They not finna go for it. Drop $100 an album and you get the majority of the return. You can't do it. Yeah, it's not happening. You're going at the labels. You're gonna get crumbs on the dollar. But when you can, in your independence, you can do it yourself. Go for it. $100 an album. Let's get it. Do you see nowadays what's happening now? Vinyl, $50, $75. Hoodies, sweatshirts, $200, $300. Griselda, when they do their merch, $200, $300. That's all them. Nipsey Hussle, $100 an album. That's all him. He ain't got to pay another company back. All he got to do is pay the people that's a part of his camp that worked on the project, and that's it. Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Pioneer of the creative, independent approach. You can't do that at the majors, man. Sorry, Jermaine Dupri. You can't do that at the majors. You can use your cachet in the streets to pull off creative elements, creative things that can spark new levels of economic value in your music, in your independent music. You know what I mean? Griselda got their whole line of merch and fashion. You know what I'm saying? You know, shout out to them. They charging $50 for a t-shirt. Let them go. They charging $200 for a sweater. Let it go. Let it go. Rock Marcy, he charging $125 for the shirt and the vinyl. Let it go. Let him go. What we talking about? My boy Doughboy, matter of fact, happy birthday, Doe Networks. You know what I'm saying? That's my brother. Happy birthday, Doe Networks. It's his birthday. It was his birthday yesterday, actually. You know what I'm saying? On Friday, he got side B dropping of This Is the Project. Side B just dropped side A last week. Going crazy. Man did a side A and a side B of a compilation. Over like 30 records. You can't do that at the labels. You can't do that with them. Nah, you can't do that with them. They're not letting you pull that off. But you could do it as an independent. Creative freedom. Creative freedom is there for the souls who know how to put in the work, who know how to really get to it. That's important. Last thing before I go. And this is for all the people who's been in the industry, whether independent or a major, it doesn't matter. The one thing to remember is these type of conversations are needed. I appreciate Jermaine Dupri for posing the question. I don't think that he was arrogant in his answer or his approach to asking this question. I don't even think he gave an answer. I just think he gave scenarios to help you guys understand his question. I think everybody is bashing him ill-advised, you know what I'm saying? Because we need these questions. Like, it's a lot of independent people out there that are independent by default because they either don't have the drive to make themselves popular, or they don't even know how to get to a major. They don't even know what a major likes or is looking for in an artist. They just doing whatever they can do. And what the question imposes is, what are your real goals? It don't matter, major or independent. What are your real goals in your career? Did you set them? Are you out to do what you really, really want to do and what you really said that you're going to do? That's the real question. That's the question that we all want to ask each other. What are your real goals as an independent artist? Do you want to say you're independent just because you want to do what you want? Because there's artists out there like that. There's artists that just want to do what they want, so they disregard everything and they end up by themselves with no cachet, with no creative, drive, and they can't get nothing done. But then there's other artists who come in, like La Russell. La Russell came in independent, and he had a game plan. The man said, I'm going to go in everybody's backyard that I can and perform right in front of them. I'm going to drop my music, whether it's mixed and mastered or not. I'm going to get it out to the people. I'm going to put it out on my own platforms. I'm going to do partnerships with other distribution platforms to get my music out there. I got a plan. I'm dropping the video to damn near every song I make. I'm doing freestyles. I'm doing content. I'm doing a vlog. He got a plan. Y'all got to get a plan about yourself. Independence, y'all got to get a plan about yourself to make things happen. That's why people ask those questions. It's an important question to ask. What are your goals? What are the goals that you set as an independent? What is making you decide to not negotiate with other companies and businesses and labels to get assistance and help and money from them? Hopefully it's a good reason. Hopefully you got your shit together. It's a good question to ask. And we need to have more conversations about that. We need to talk about this a lot more. from the perspective of, can we give the newer generation and the current generation and the previous generation, can we give them new approaches and new ways to become independent, stay independent, and be great and creative and dope as an independent? There's still milestones that we need to hit as independents. There's still milestones we need to hit. It's a great question. Let me know your thoughts. Put it in the comments. Let me know if you think the question was a good question or not. Let me know what you think about independence and, independent music artists, independent labels, and what they need to do to get this thing along. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to have that conversation with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Just know it's going to be a lot of work you got to put in. You know what I mean? I appreciate y'all. Until the next topic, until the next vibe, until the next workload. Let's get it.